Hello everybody and welcome back to my series on building in Kenya. If you're new here, I'm sharing my journey step by step from breaking ground to finishing touches. In my last video, we celebrated a big milestone, the completion of the roof. As a custom in Kisi culture, we paused and the contractors took a break and indulged in some food and drinks. I also mentioned in that video that plaster works had begun on both the interior and exterior walls. Today, however, rather than giving you an update on the plaster work, I wanted to switch things up a little bit. I'll be answering some questions that were posted in the comments on the last video. These questions ranged from architect selection to building materials, insulation, and what have you. So without further ado, let's dive right in. First up is a question from user Abdi Aziz Hashi. They asked, how did you find an architect who could understand and realize your unique design vision? Great question. Finding the right architects took a lot of research, but the short answer is I did a ton of online digging. This included YouTube videos. I actually shared my full process in a previous video, which I will link above. So click on that and go catch the explanation and the inspiration for this home that I built. But let me give you a quick breakdown of what I believe are the key steps. Step number one, you need to define your project scope. What do I mean by that? Start by clearly outlining what you want from your project. Include your goals, your budget, and your timeline. For my home, if I have to give you an example, I had specific needs. I wanted a ground floor layout without steps for my mom who's in her 70s. I didn't want no sunken living room, no elevated dining rooms or anything like that. I also wanted a lot of natural light in all the main areas. And by the look of this building, you can tell that the architect actually delivered on my vision. So this is very important. You need to define the project scope and make sure that when you're talking to an architect, you share exactly what you want. Step number two, I think it's important that you research and listen or follow some recommendations. How do you find these recommendations? You need to ask friends, family, or colleagues who have recently built. Clearly, you're already doing the research because you came onto my video and you commented, and here we are, I'm sharing a full video on what I did. Also, this is also very important. You need to check professional directories. The Architectural Association of Kenya, they have a website. I'm going to leave it in the about section of this video. Please go on there and look for architects, that are registered. They even have a ton of, recommendations. Of course, those are probably paid, advertisements or recommendations, but that's a good start. For any architect that you're going to be using, please take time and find out if they're registered with the Board of Registration for Architects and Quantity Surveyors. A lot of folks in Kenya say they're architects, but you can't verify their credentials from any agency anywhere. So taking the time or paying just a little bit extra to have someone who's registered, who's certified to actually work on your project will save you a headache down the road. Number three, interviewing the architects. So you've done your research, you've identified maybe 1, 2, or 3 people that now you're like, okay, these people look like they might be able to deliver my vision. When you're interviewing these architects, do not hesitate to ask them about their qualifications, experience, and past projects. Regarding past projects, ask them to forward you their portfolio. Make sure it's very well put together. Look at the pictures. From that portfolio, can you envision yourself living or buying one of those projects that they have completed? Make sure when you're talking to them today, they truly understand your vision and can stick to your budget. And this is key. Discuss timelines, the fees, and their communication style. It is crucial that you choose someone you feel comfortable collaborating with. Let me take a quick step back. When it comes to fees for architects, this is actually something that is regulated in Kenya. Most architects, I believe the fees cannot be no more than 6% of the total cost of building or your construction project. When it comes to communication style, if you're trying to reach an architect or you're communicating with them during the interview phase and it takes them 2 to 3 days to respond back, maybe it's time to look for someone who is able to respond back to you, in a timely fashion. Or whenever you're talking to them, maybe clearly define that, hey, if I text you, I expect you to respond within, let's say, 24, no more than 48 hours. All right, step 4. Once you've identified the 2 to 3 architects you're going to be working with, and you've told them the vision, they're going to go back to the drawing board, they're going to draw up a design, and they're going to send it to you. I want you to take time and review those proposals before you make a choice. You need to compare their proposals side by side. You need to pay close attention to the scope, meaning everything you told them that you wanted in the building or in the project. Pay close attention to the fees they're charging you. Some of the hidden fees include site visits. So if your architect lives, let's say, somewhere in Nairobi, and they're coming to visit your site, some of them might say, hey, a site visit is going to cost you 10,000 shillings every time they come to the site. So you need to pay close attention to some of the fees they're charging. And then, of course, the timeline. If they say they can deliver the project in, let's say, 12 months or in 10 months, and the project is one of these massive projects, you need to question that. If your project is just a small renovation that can be completed in about 8 weeks, and they say it's going to take 6 months, you need to be very careful about that. Then after you've, compared everything side by side, this is the time where you trust your gut. If something is off when you're communicating with one of the architects, trust me, trust your gut, walk away. All right, let's move on. Second question, building material. So, and this is specifically referencing the Rugal Block. The question is in the Rugal Block an ideal building material for temperature control and soundproofing? Until you ask this question, I had never heard of this term, the Rugal Block. As a matter of fact, I had to Google this term, and when I Googled, this is what came up. So the Rugal blocks, also known as machine cut stones, these are very popular in Kenya. They are durable, weather resistant, and they come from volcanic rocks mined in the Rift Valley. They're very strong, they are affordable, and easily accessible, especially all across central Kenya. But the key word here is affordable. Now, your question was, are they a good material for temperature control and soundproofing? When I was reading this article, it said, while they're not as soundproof or not as good for soundproofing or insulating as other materials, they are widely used due to their cost effectiveness. So essentially, these Rugal blocks are really cost friendly for your project. But if you were trying to buy them because you want soundproofing or insulation, you might want to consider other options. All right, let's move on to the third question that you asked. And this is referring to like wall insulation options. So the question is, what are effective methods for insulating walls to control temperature and sound in Nairobi? Well, it's a good question, and there are several good options. Nowadays, you can find anything in Kenya. So number one, you can use mineral wool. It offers excellent sound dampening, good thermal performance and fire resistance. You can go another option, you can use spray foam. Now, this is probably going to cost a little bit more, but if you have, gaps and cracks everywhere, spray foam is great for filling those, cracks and gaps. It also provides really good sound insulation and temperature insulation. Now, if you're one of those eco-friendly people, you might want to consider cellulose insulation. I've never seen it, but it's something that is out there. However, if you're budget conscious, consider fiberglass. That's also another good material for insulation. Now, for my project in Kisii, I wasn't going to use any insulation. The temperature year-round in Kisii it's pretty consistent between a high of 24 degrees Celsius and a low of about 15 degrees Celsius. And for those people in the Western Hemisphere, that is high of 77 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 59 degrees Fahrenheit. I made a video and I posted it on my timeline where I was discussing the reasons why I chose concrete blocks for my project. And one of those reasons is because they offered great insulation. Not that we need it in Kisii, because the temperature doesn't really fluctuate a whole lot like it does in Nairobi. All right, moving on. Question number 4, waterproofing and specifically skilled plumbers. So the question is, could I recommend skilled plumbers experienced in installing waterproofing rolls for wet areas like toilets, kitchens, and laundry? Well, I'm going to share my experience for my own project. And for my own project, I used a subcontractor. And this subcontractor was selected through like a competitive bidding process. And the entire bidding process was managed by my team. The team involved the architect, the electrical mechanical engineer, the quantity surveyor, and of course myself. We reviewed several bids from reputable companies before we made our final choice. I'll make a more detailed video about this process soon, so stay tuned. All right, question number 5, roof construction. Now, this is in regards to T-beams versus conventional slab. So the question was, what are the pros and cons of using T-beams for a flat roof compared to conventional slab? Now, I am not a structural engineer, but I can share some insights. Personally, T-beams weren't a good fit for my project. I lean towards conventional slabs. However, I found a great video that compares both in terms of strength, durability, and cost. I'm going to link the video in the About section of this video down here. So please take time, go check out that video, and maybe it can offer you some, insights to what you were looking for. Number 2, I want to mention that you might want to, talk to a structural engineer who can give you a more informed answer when it comes to T-beams and conventional slab. So please take this advice with a grain of salt. All right. So I want to thank y'all for your questions and obviously for your ongoing support. And I love hearing from you and sharing this journey. If you have more questions, please drop them in the comments below. I might feature them in an upcoming video. And please don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss my next update in this exciting project. I will see you in the next one.